Welcome, you wild roving band of questers. Simplicity here, and I'm going to be diving deep into the download for Initiatory Gateway number 2 of the quest that opened up for us with the last download I brought in for the collective. If you have not checked it out yet, it's all about how to break the spell of the Valley of the Shadow. And I will put a link pinned in the comments. I'll also put a link in the description box, or perhaps I'll put a card up in this video. We'll see how it goes. But you really should drop in on that one first, because that is the energy of the quest that is coming in for the collective here, that will be kicked off with the Aries new moon on the 29th. It's just around the corner here, and will culminate with the Sagittarius full moon on the 11th of June. So we're going to be traveling through this energy for a while, but we do have a section at the end of that download where you can pick your adventure, pick which initiatory gateway you want to head on through. And this particular download I'm bringing in tonight is for initiatory gateway number 2, which had at the basis of the matter sex witch and octopus, and with what's coming in the birthday corpse. All right, and it also came in with this little key here. All right, of course you're always free to listen to all the downloads, but I do have some initial channeled messages that I want to bring in around this. First of all, in terms of this key here, I feel that there are two that are wanting to connect, to communicate with each other. There is something of importance here about the meeting of two minds, but I feel the desire to get to this end goal is being blocked by two exes is what I got in this situation. Now, is it their exes, the two that are supposed to meet here, or somebody that is connected to them, perhaps within the family, that's causing an issue, causing some kind of disruption or inability to move forward here, have this meeting of the minds? I feel like this meeting of the minds is really important, though. There is an objective that needs to be achieved here that's not possible unless this comes together. I also feel like you're dealing with the 5-year anniversary of something coming up here. It's like the 5-year anniversary of the same old ish, okay? Something has been going on since 2020, and it's been a bit of a tripping point. It's like a skip in a record. It just keeps going back to the certain state of progression, and then it gets stuck there, like something doesn't go the next step, doesn't go the next step further. For some of you, it's the anniversary of sobriety, and that can also be a sobering moment, okay? It doesn't just have to do with giving up addiction. It can be a matter of having some moment that revealed a harsh truth to you. It was a sobering moment, and the date of that anniversary is sort of, looping back around. I also feel like whether it's a case of sobriety as in ending an addiction, or it's a sobering moment and that anniversary is rolling around, you're starting to notice that there's been an energy transference either way, okay? If you had an addiction and you were able to overcome that, that is something that I hope that you're really acknowledging, that you're feeling a healthy sense of pride around that. But you may be noticing how similar patterns of behavior have transferred into other areas of your life, perhaps even within your intimate connections or your ability to connect with others. This coming in, if it was a sobering moment, you're still experiencing this energy transference. You can sense that another sobering moment is about to be at your doorstep if you do not take some kind of action. It's something that you've been holding off on. It's like not wanting to look at it, though. Not wanting to look at it. It's really interesting. There's definitely something about intimacy here. There's something about intimate connection, or the desire to have an intimate connection, that needs to be reviewed. There's also something that needs to be cut off in order to make this possible. What you desire to be going down intimately for you requires that something is cut off and it hasn't been addressed. But there's definitely some kind of outside energy that is resisting this cutoff. There's also the piece about, you know, what really turns you on, or you know what really like gets your motor humming, what inspires you, what gives you a sense of enthusiasm. But you're too scared to go for it and you're holding yourself back. And yet it's not something that's going to quiet down in you, no matter how much you try to resist it. And I got the vibes like the telltale heart coming in with that. So it's something that like gnaws at you. It's something that's like still beating, even though it's been buried underneath the floorboards and left for dead. It's still there. Tick, 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 tick. And you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of 10:15 on a Saturday night, The Cure, with the drip, 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 drip. So there could be a connection there. Pay attention to 10:15, especially on a Saturday night. There might be something that goes down there. There could be a connecting point there. Either way, something needs a remedy. Something has no cure if it's not acted upon. And in order to do this, there may be some piece of having to bring the dead back to life to get some answers to some burning questions. That could be what this is about. It could even be in relation to somebody that's got a birthday coming up here pretty soon. So it could be in relation to an Aries, or you could be an Aries. It could be in relation to a Taurus. You could be a Taurus, or it could be somebody that recently had a birthday. You know, this anniversary recently looped around. This could have something to do with the Pisces. Also could have something to do with life path number 5, okay? Because I see 5 candles on this cake, the 5 energy coming in really strongly. 5 is a fixing number. It holds something in place. And out of all the piles, there's definite reference here to some alchemy at play, especially alchemy that was done on a level that perhaps bound one to another, where there was some kind of harvesting of energy or trying to control or harness another's energy. And we see it coming in with the need to cut this energy off, because this figure here is holding an athame. So there's a need to sort of free oneself from a certain bubble of energy, to cut one's way through while sealing off the past. So this energy cannot trail behind, because this energy has a tendency to reanimate. And yet there's something there about needing to kind of test it, challenge it a little bit, because there's certain answers that need to be retrieved. There is someone or something that you need to overthrow in order to return either someone or something that got away from you. And I'm also hearing got over on you. So there may be a little bit in this pile about feeling like there's something to prove, or there's some kind of score that needs to be settled. And I also got a really interesting message coming in that there could be like a spirit of a thing that's attached to you, your situation. I got something really specifically, and this will relate to whoever's meant to receive it. This piece may not be for everybody, but this piece came in pretty strongly about something behind the house. Almost like it feels like a watchful eye, something behind the house. And this is like a spiritual matter here, okay? But there's something about that, something about the energy behind the house. Something feels uncomfortable there. And in relation to that, I got the need to appease an angered spirit that's demanding some kind of obedience. Okay. So if you recently moved to a new property, or if something has felt a little bit off around your home property, this has something to do with the actual energies of the land being pissed off and needing to be appeased. So there's something that needs to be resolved here. And that also could be a little bit about that, like reanimating the dead there, especially if you feel like there's been a lot of instability around a home. There's been lack of security, or there's been something that's been disrupting the finances, or even the security of the relationships of the people who live within the dwelling. This piece coming in, because there is some kind of like working sort of energy connected to this for a lot of you, some kind of spiritual work, some kind of outside interference, but it's not always that somebody's throwing something at you. Sometimes it can be the bones of a place, or it can be the energies of the land and something that needs to be rectified there. But I got specifically in relation to that, something behind the house. And almost like when you feel, sort of the energy around you when you're out there, I feel like, especially at night, you feel like you got eyes on you. All right. And it is something that needs to be appeased. And it's sort of like this issue is coming through as you need to, rectify the situation. For some of you, it's something you're doing out there. It may even be spiritual work that you're doing out there in a certain area, and it's out of harmony with the spirits of the land. So you might want to look at switching that up if that's what it's about. If you've been doing some kind of like spiritual work, ritual work, anything of that nature, it's out of harmony with the spirits of the land. You might want to relocate where you're doing that work and maybe leave behind some kind of offering, right? Tobacco is always nice. That usually appeases the spirits. It's considered spirit candy, right? So that can kind of make things right in a situation like that. I also feel that there's something here that that you need to do. It's something you keep coming back to over again, over again, over again. And yet you haven't done it. And you keep asking yourself, like, should I do this? And the answer is overwhelmingly, yes, you need to do it. It's something that has been sanctioned by spirit. And if you don't do it, you're going to continue to have more harsh realities and awakenings. And it's because you need to do this. And maybe it's that too. It's like the anniversary of what you should have done a long time ago is looping back around again. Here it is, a year later. You said you were going to do that thing. You still haven't done it, okay? There's a lot coming through this pile about spiritual responsibility. That's a big key with this particular initiatory gateway. And it could be holding somebody accountable, all right, in relation to some spiritual work that's been having an effect on your life. That could have something to do with you learning how to have better spiritual boundaries, or learning how to stand up for yourself in that arena in a way that's balanced and doesn't get you put in a position where you're continually taking on, things, or fighting fire with fire. There's something that is needing to be alchemized in this situation to protect oneself from a particularly clingy, unrelenting energy. So let's dive in and get some initial cards out here. Look at this. Grease Priest, bottom of the deck energy. So yeah, there's a need for spiritual cleansing in this situation. There's a need for spiritual responsibility in this situation, or potentially to hold someone accountable in a situation. For some of you, this is in relation to a church and maybe something inappropriate that happened within the church. And there's a need to hold that person responsible, right? Some of you may be looking at healing something that goes way back. This may be something you've been dealing with since you got sober, right? And maybe it's part of what needs to happen in order for you to experience this healing. I got specifically like something that went down in a congregation. I got like a big hit of sentience around that. Some of you have pursued really alternative spiritual pathways, very different from your spiritual upbringing, and there's been a lot of shame projected on you around that. And yet, like why you chose to go in the direction you did. I got for some of you, this has to do with inappropriateness around elders within the congregation, or something inappropriate that happened when you were a child. I know that's very sensitive territory, but it's really wanting to come through very clear and very direct in this way. Maybe you've been wondering if you should like address this. Yes, you should. It's something that's sanctioned by spirit. And it's sort of like you're the one who continues to take on the harshness of the situation if you don't step forward and address that. It's important that you speak your truth. It's what will bring about an awakening to a new sense of freedom in your life. Okay, that's coming in really strongly for someone. There's some heaviness around this particular gateway. A lot of it relates to patterns that need to be broken, habits that need to be looked at honestly, connections that need another look, and the dynamics within them, and really understanding what's healthy, what's not. But there's also like a lot of empowerment that wants to come through here and will come through once the answers are retrieved. And I feel those answers have to do with looking at that thing you've been resisting looking at, or addressing something that you haven't wanted to address. Bottom of the deck. Yeah. I mean, you've been keeping it together on the outside, but inside it's annihilation. And it is time to face something. You might have been too acquiescing to a certain energy that needs a little bit of a stronger touch. You know what I'm saying? It needs a little bit more of a wake-up call about, hey, don't mess with me, or back off, or this is my space, or these are my boundary lines. Like, I am picking up these kind of things coming in, and I feel like you may have been a little too chill about it. And there is such a thing as righteous anger as well, I'm hearing, and that's an important part for you to not keep all this sort of pressurized inside of you, but to really stand in your power. And maybe you dealt with a lot of anger around you before, and that's something that can be activating for you. But you can express anger in a way that doesn't have you going out of control, or is not a destructive force, but is a very embodied, empowered force. And there is something about this coming through that may be the only spiritual cleansing you need, because it's holding it all inside of you that's blocking off the potential that's ready to be activated here with chaos, mom. Okay, now see, you could have been dealing with somebody. Maybe you had a mother who had a lot of anger, or maybe you had a mother that dealt with a lot of injustice or wasn't treated right, but she just kind of held it all inside, or pretended like everything was okay while everything was spiraling out of control within. There's something about this. Maybe it's anger that you witnessed in the home when you were a child, but there's something coming up here about you're embodying your more wild nature here. And there's so much that wants to activate in you. And there's a whole new cycle that's ready to open up for you. And I feel like you're meant to go down a very unique path. And there might be others around you who really don't understand this path, or they have certain judgments about what you're doing, or they may feel like you're kind of spiraling out of control because you're moving against the grain of what's expected of you. But this is actually something that's really going to empower you, and it's your calling. Your calling is being activated here. Your alchemical abilities are awakening in you too. So despite how everything may feel up in the air right now, you may feel like the more you start to sort of trust what your soul is telling you, you feel like things become more unstable. But it's just the framework of what was holding you back that's becoming unstable here. There's something that is really ready to move forward, but it is going to require you to really stand up and represent who you truly are, and sort of let forward those parts of you that you've been repressing up till now because of some sense of, I'm going to get judged, or, you know, this is going to stir up a lot of old stuff, or it's going to cause problems, or maybe you need to confront something, you know, that got over on you in some way. And that's a big part of you, like, taking your power back. It might be really important for you to face this, whatever it is. And it could be the angered spirit that's demanding obedience is the part of you that's like, no, you need to respect this calling, and you need to follow through, and you need to do that thing that you know you need to do, because that's about you really representing who you are and standing in the truth and the power of who you are. And it might feel disruptive, but it's only disruptive because it's something that you're scared to do, because most people are really afraid to step into their power. It's the truth. 2033 on the clock. Some of you are standing up to a mother figure. Some of you are standing up to somebody that you share a child with, okay? This coming through. Some of you are standing up because you never saw your mother able to stand up, and you know it's something that you need to do. Some of you are standing up for a mother, or you're a mother and you're standing up for your kid. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this, but this is really essential. There's some wild wisdom, wild power that's activating in you here. It's everything that is the making of your destiny. And there's also something about really standing up and being proud of who you are, not feeling like you have to hide away parts of yourself in order to find acceptance. If people don't let you be who you are, and they cast shame on you or judgment on you, or they cast you aside, then it's time to start questioning those connections. You know, there's something about, it is time for you to feel proud of who you are. You don't need to apologize for who you are. That's also part of taking spiritual responsibility. It's about being completely transparent and true to yourself. And when you're transparent and true to yourself, automatically that transparency is going to carry forward and will create a climate where you're true to others as well. All of these pieces coming into your situation. Okay, let's check it out. What is this? So there's something you're bringing into your life that has either been missing for a while. I mean, a lot of you are wanting some kind of intimacy that's been missing. That did open up. But this is also like a whole new lease on life. It's nurturing coming in, whatever this is. But there's also something that doesn't feel safe about it, or feels a little destabilizing, because I feel like it's a new experience. You know, the level of what wants to come in here is transformational. In terms of intimacy, this is not just your average connection. This is a connection where it's a wild ride. In terms of, it's a lot of expansion. There's a lot of growth that happens in this connection. It may not always be easy either. There may be a pattern in certain connections where, oh, I just turn tail and run because it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable, or it makes me bump up against parts of myself that remind me of things that take me back to times when I didn't feel empowered. In my childhood, particularly, I got around this. It's recognizing that those sort of like sneaky parts, you know, that are kind of hidden, are actually the thing that holds the potential of what will bring the sweetness of the bloom. They may be the thorns, and they may be the things that we kind of like to hide in the dark, but they're what allows us to actually find a way through the emotional current, find a way through what has been too fixed, what's been held in place, like that skip in the record, that actually has us finding a way through. Okay, there's a way through here, but it does require you to really stand up for yourself and rise up out of whatever has been causing you pain. It's also about not hitting repeat on the same old cycle again. Like, you have to break this cycle now. Something feels really like impending about this. again, it's something that's been in place for like 5 years, like since 2020. Yeah, it's been the same old thing for 5 years since 2020. It's like the same old thing, and just continually every time the anniversary, loops back around, it's just like it's on repeat. Like, well, this will be the year I do it. This will be the year that I transform my life. This will be the year that I start my business, or this will be the year that I'm going to reach out to that person and heal this relationship, or this is going to be the year that I quit drinking, or this is going to be the year that I finally, take charge of my health and I get in shape. It can be any of a number of things, but it's something you keep telling yourself you're going to do, and then you don't do it. And instead you stay true to something that really is holding you back. And wow, look at what came out there. And it's cutting off your options. The basis of the matter, sex, witch, and octopus. It's like there's all these things that you want to explore. Look at it. There's even the health piece that came in there. Okay. It's like you're cutting off your desire to cut off what's actually keeping you in a place of fear and apprehension, because you continue to hold onto it, is also preventing your ability to really show up for yourself in other ways. I mean, you may not be realizing how much that stagnancy is affecting areas of your life that, at the surface level, you might not recognize a correlation. It's affecting your finances. It's affecting just how you are, how you show up in the world. You don't have the confidence you normally would. You're not mentally stimulated, you feel grounded when you really would like to, find a little elevation in your life. You'd like to get to the next level. You feel like you've been operating at the same level for a while. You'd like to just show up as you are. You'd like people to be real with you too, but there might be a little part of that, if you're having a hard time showing up as you are, and then you feel like you're encountering people that aren't being real with you, it's reflecting something to you, it's reflecting something to you. This is like struggling too with not knowing when you need to take the lead, and when it's okay to kind of just allow yourself to follow. It's a dance. It's a dance as we move through this life, but there's a lot that's been held up here because of something you're connected to. And for some of you, it could be in relation to somebody who is doing a little spiritual work, or a connection that you're involved in that acts as a binding influence because of the impact it's having spiritually. This is like soul level stuff here. So there is a need to break through out of the monotony, face one's fear, a need to stir things up, cut something off that's become a bit entangled, a bit parasitic. And I feel like those who chose this particular gateway already know what this is. You've been dealing with this for a while, at least since 2020. Let's do a cut the deck here, and I'll get some more details for you. Yeah, look at this. The provider. Look at the masking energy. Look at that. So you could be dealing with a situation with somebody who chose pile one, or there could be threads of messages kind of connected to the situation there. All right. So this is a really interesting dynamic. Look, this could be like a role you've been playing. You could have been like playing this role of a provider in a situation, or telling yourself that something you're connected to is providing for you in some way, but really your cup is empty. And you've known this for a long time, but you kind of feel like you're held in place because of that underdeveloped side of you, right? The part of you that's still, stuck within a certain psychic imprint from something in the past, probably from when you were really young. For some of you, this is in correlation with a child. I mean, there was this piece about there could be a couple exes involved for some of you. You could share a child with someone, And yet there is something here that needs to be addressed, and it's been ignored for too long. It's like the elephant in the room. May's face. Well, May's face is on the scene, so I'll have to connect you all with the download around that, because we brought in something specifically about May's face. All right, so that particular download is being activated for those of you who chose Initiatory Gateway 2. I will put the card for that on this video as well, so you can check that out. This is really figuring out who you are. And see, there's something here where you almost may have gotten a little bit lost in needing to keep up appearances, right? You may have gotten a little attached to sort of this outer presentation that's not really the true you. I feel like those who chose this pile, there's something here that you're needing to unmask, because it's acting as too of a like restrictive influence on your life, and it's holding you back. And it has something to do with letting out a part of you that you feel is like too wild, or if people see this side of me, it's going to stir up some kind of chaos in my life. Or I want to take an action in a certain direction, but if I do that, maybe, you know, it's going to cut off something for me that I viewed as a source of security or viewed as providing me something. But there's something here about it's not really providing what you think it is, because the cup is empty here. And there's a lot of journeying into the center of you in this particular initiatory gateway. It's almost like you need to resolve some kind of inner riddle here. But once you do, it's an immediate awakening of power. There is power that's put in your hand. And you do take an action that brings in your sun. It finally brings in that dawn and the birth of a new beginning here. So pretty potent, okay? But yeah, it's time to disrupt the programming here, right? The program's been in place for way too long, and there's something that does need to be disrupted here. I do recommend spiritual cleansing, you know, for this particular gateway. I think it's always a good idea anytime you're moving through any initiatory process, but I feel it coming in really strongly for you all. I think it could be beneficial in your situation. And sometimes spiritual cleansing can come through communicating something that we've been holding in too long. So it could be coming in that way for you all. All right, angels, imps on the scene. Let's get some more details here. Bottom of the deck, see, 7 of Cups. I mean, this is the truth of the matter with the Jaguar medicine here. There are different paths you want to explore. There are certain actions you want to take. There's certain aspects of who you are that you're tired of, you know, kind of keeping in the dark. And you do want to show up that way. It's like you might even be looking around you. You might be seeing other people that are more free-spirited, that they're more able to let these parts of themselves just kind of come up and out. And you may be wanting that too for yourself. And you may not be recognizing that, you know, that disruption, being able to sort of encounter that upheaval is a big part of that entering into that free space. You're only really truly free when you're no longer sort of affected by the judgments or opinions of others. And so a lot of times we don't get to that state of freedom in ourselves until we put ourselves in a position where we have to be exposed to that judgment, where we have to deal with people rebuking us or, you know, making calls on who they think we are, because we don't want to necessarily fall in line with their ideals. And so that is a disruptive process, but it's also very cathartic. It can be a catalyst to you really stepping up into the truth of who you are. And then you feel that freedom. But there's no way that you can kind of get to that freedom without bumping up against those things that you're afraid of. That's a part of the process here. I do feel like also in your situation, you are dealing with some oppositional energy. You are dealing with some outside interference that doesn't want you to kind of come into this place of alignment. And for some of you, it's a particular person that you're wanting to make contact with, that you're wanting to communicate with, that you feel like you need to resolve things with. This is obviously something that has probably been a trail that's gone cold. There hasn't been communication there. There's been blockage for a while. Things have been held up. This could be in relation to exes, or there could be exes factoring into the situation in some way that's making things complicated with this meeting of the minds. And yet I do feel like you need to face the fear of whatever you feel like is going to happen if you go through with that, despite what other people are saying is going to happen if you do. Is it true? There's something you need to really question here, because what's coming through you in your desire to take this a step further and to sort of poke around where others say you should fear to tread is the very thing that's going to give you the answers that you need at this time. It is a calling. And if you don't do it, it's just going to keep you in the same holding pattern. There's something here about a matter of integrity. And that means that you got to be true to yourself, which you know is true for yourself, that you need to be able to face the unknown as well. You can sit here forever trying to figure out, how things are going to turn out. And you're not going to know until you just jump into the fire and let that fire test of truth transform you. You'll get the answers you need. And what was once secret to you, like something that felt like a closed off space, a blocked off space, I'm not allowed entry there. Once you do this unveiling and you let yourself show up as you are and you take this action, all of a sudden you get like VIP access. You get access to those secret things. You have knowledge about the things that you sat around and stewed over and wondered about for years. And you'll realize, wow, time's just been ticking. I've been losing all this time. I've been wasting my life. And now I have these answers. Now I know what I've needed to know all along. All of a sudden, everything opens up for you, you see? So it's almost like a fear of really living your life. It's like becoming very accustomed to a rut, becoming very accustomed to a role, and just sort of staying in that because it's safer, and at least I don't have to deal with the upheaval of other people's judgments or any of that. And yet it's really like squandering your life, and you're needing to come back to life again. This is really important, okay? Yeah, and I think that, you may have been trying to stick something out too, because there might have been a lot of talk about, well, things will change, or, we can make it better, or, in cases of a relationship or some kind of connection where there's been repeat challenges and there's been reinvestment though, because there's always this, big moment where it's like, okay, but we can make it better. And yet one or both people in this situation aren't doing what needs to be done. Like there's no follow through. It's like the promise is there or the intention is there, but the work isn't actually being done. It's like somebody trying to convince somebody like, I've changed, I'm different, it's not going to be like it was. And yet the same stuff, it's the same old shit keeps happening. And so it's time to really be honest with oneself about that. And if you're the one who's been saying that, like, I'm going to change, I'm going to do things differently, and you haven't, you have to recognize how that undermines you at some point and keeps you in sort of a lack mindset, or a sort of sense of feeling like you're always failing. Because if you constantly promise yourself you're going to change or you're going to do something and then you don't do it, slowly you erode the trust in yourself. And it can get projected and looked at through the lens of, it's because I deal with these circumstances, or this person, put me through this, and that's why this can't happen for me. But there does come a point where we really have to follow through for ourselves. It's not about anybody outside of us. And I feel like this is coming in your situation as well. It's like once you recognize this, some kind of illusion, illusion is just totally dispelled. It's like you break the spell of the valley of the shadow of death on you. You don't continually just feel like you're haunting your own life. And suddenly then you see how many options you have before you. You realize you actually have a lot of options you didn't have before. But I also pick up the sense that it's like these options have always been available to you. There's just too much like needing the approval of other people or needing to feel like a sense of no disruption. And I don't know, I keep getting a piece like that might be something connected to childhood, that this is sort of a behavior that you're mimicking. There could have been somebody in your household who liked to keep up the appearances, like everything's good, everything's nailed down, it's calm here, but that's not the reality of this situation. But you may have learned that there's something about, no, we can't let things get messy. We can't let things get real. We can't let things get raw. We have to put on this appearance, and that's what's more important. And it's not. It's actually the realness, the rawness, the messiness, like let it get a little chaotic, let it get a little confusing, let it all come up and out. It's actually what sorts it out and totally opens up the road. This coming in here very strongly for this particular gateway of initiation. You are being initiated into Jaguar medicine. I feel that very strongly. I highly recommend you do some research on jaguars. Yes, spiritually, you can look up the totem meanings. I highly recommend Ted Andrews, Animal Speaks, for that. Brilliant. Just really brilliant the way that he covers the different animal medicines. I also say just do your own studies, see where you're drawn with that, and then actually learn about jaguars, watch some natural natural shows, nature shows, National Geographic, things like this. Dive into jaguars, notice them, notice how they move, notice their behaviors, learn about them. This is what you're embracing here. You're meant to step into that kind of medicine. Jaguar medicine is definitely about impeccable integrity. Integrity is everything with Jaguar medicine. It's also about fearlessness with moving into the unknown. And there's a lot more that comes along with it, but I do feel that this is central with this particular group and your initiatory process here. And I also feel like that's spiritual responsibility too, okay? So those of you who may work in spiritual fields, or you may be active alchemists, there is something coming in here too about impeccable integrity with your work, all right? And we got 4 of Swords on the bottom of the deck here. So yes, it is time to act on that thing that you have been asking yourself, should I do it? Is it the right time? It's never going to be the right time, according to, sort of who you are at the surface level. Let's look at it that way. Because as long as you keep looking at it through that lens, it's never going to be the right time. You're always going to find an excuse. There's a need to dig deeper here. It is your mission. And you may be worried that people are going to talk badly about you. You may be worried about what this action is going to stir up for you. But really, you're going to be protected from this. There's something here about a matter that's dragging from your past that really needs to be rectified here. Something does need to be laid to rest once and for all here. It's way overdue. It's like you may be waiting on divine timing. It's like, no, you don't understand. You are the divine timing. It's when you awaken to the divinity within you that you will take the action and this matter will finally be resolved. It's like you have to recognize that that divinity is part of you. You are creator. You are part of the creator. So it's sort of like you already know what you need to do. You already have the answers you need, but you don't trust yourself, which is why you haven't acted on it. But you haven't acted on it and you don't trust yourself because you keep saying you're going to do it and you don't. And that erodes trust in the self. And this is like a certain aspect of your psychology that you need to catch up here. It's time to stop letting that be the hook that draws you back into old cycles, but actually get that part of you caught up because it's preventing you from moving forward here. You're going to go through a radical transformation, and something about it is just letting the inner come to the surface and really be represented. So it's really going to have the effect of superficially, you're going to go through a major transformation. Some of you are really going to go through a major physical transformation. I am picking up that piece for some of you. You've been hiding behind layers, you've been insulating yourself from your life's experience. And you're catching up those habitual patterns of behavior. And you're just letting everything come up and out. And you're starting to take care of yourself. You're starting to show up for yourself. And there is something about this meeting of minds. I mean, and this might involve having a very real communication with somebody, and there's been interference in it, but it's what you need to heal here. I feel this, okay? Whatever this is, I feel like it's something that really materially changes your life. Like it's such an inner process. It's allowing that inner process though to be the source of your refining. And not letting it be like buried inside of you anymore, create some radical transformation in your life. It's the thing that removes the blockages from your path. I feel very strongly here. Yeah, because see, you've been in this like lack mindset with the 5 of Pentacles. Always feeling like forgotten or feeling like, you're last on the list or it's never going to be your time or your needs aren't met or you're pouring everything out for others and you don't feel like anything comes back in. You feel like you work really hard. You don't get anything back. You're always trying to be patient, You're trying to figure out like what's the secret to success? How come I can't have these things too? And it has everything to do with you really acting on this thing that you've been needing to do for a long time. And I feel like it turns that energy of lack around, right around. You'll be surprised how quickly your fortunes multiply in all arenas once you appease this angered spirit that's demanding obedience. And yes, metaphysically, this can be the case. Like there's this piece about spiritual cleansing. There is this piece, for those that really resonate with that message about, something going on in the back of the house and needing to appease the spirits of the land. Like that can remedy a situation. If there's been like this sort of like pox energy held in place because of spiritual work or anything in relation to that doing cleansing and giving some kind of offerings can really right that wrong and create restoration. So for some of you, it's definitely a spiritual matter that needs to be resolved here. For some of you, that could be around exes. Okay, it could be spiritual work that was toward an ex or that an ex directed towards you. All right. Either way, there can be something that is resolved here by cleansing and appeasing angered spirits. But I also feel like a lot of this is speaking to repression, and the angered spirit is actually within you. It's the pressurized part of you. It's the part of you that feels frustrated or impatient. From a shamanistic perspective, when we're looking at things like anger, we're looking at things as like greed, or we're looking at things like a sense of lack. Those things are considered spirits that are afflicting a person. they're not really the true nature. They're more things that have been taken on. And so there is a way we can cleanse ourselves of those energies. And for a lot of you, I feel like that spirit of anger, if you're really resonating with that, if you feel frustrated, if you feel pressurized, if you feel, really activated in that way, but you find yourself having to hold it in or hold it back a lot, or finding release by turning to different ways of sort of checking out from it. There's something that's really coming in here about as soon as you're obedient to the call, what you know you need to do here. And for many of you, it's like there's a communication that's pivotal with this that's been blocked. Once you resolve this, then it lifts that spirit from you. You see what I mean? It breaks the cycle, but it's your spiritual responsibility because it's something that has your spirit not in a place of rest. Okay? It's how it's coming through. Let me go ahead and do a cut of the deck to cap this off because this feels really complete to me. Let's see what we got here. The Hangman. Okay. So definitely we are dealing with a situation where it's about really needing to strip away like the false identities, strip away the facade, let something be seen as it is. It could be a karmic matter you are dealing with here. Certainly it at least goes back 5 years, 5 coming in very strong. There's also the piece here of you could be dealing with a blind spot, something that you wanted to sweep under the rug or you don't want to look at, and yet it nags at you. And you know the truth. And there is something very freeing and empowering about acknowledging that truth for yourself. You could also be dealing with a hidden enemy. And I got that in relation to likely that would be in connection to some kind of intimate connection, okay? Where there's already been sharing on that level and something being a little mucky there, okay? Especially if you deal with people who throw stuff around, then, do be mindful of that. Or if you know that, you did something in the past and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have done it quite like that. That kind of turned out a little pear-shaped. I wasn't anticipating that, okay? Who knows, Could be, you did something when you were younger, and you were inexperienced and it's just whipping back around now. I mean, we never know the timing with these things, especially when we look at karmic patterns, all right? And we are looking at something karmic here with the Hangman and a need for some kind of perspective, some kind of illumination that will come through. Also something that's been held up for a long time. But I do feel like there is a little bit of this energy here, like somebody wanting to like swap places with you or wanting to put an end to something that's meant to, be sort of born anew here for you, something that is meant to experience some kind of resurgence in your life, but it's been held back or cut off for too long. Because there is this piece here where it says lights, corpse lights above graves and moves bodies. So the souls may be stolen. You know what I'm saying? There's something here that's kept you in a rut. And it's kept you in a position where it's stolen so much life from you already. And it's time to really call those parts of you back so you can experience this rebirth energy and free yourself from this illusion. It's more something that's been put on you than is really truly who you are. But I do feel like where there's been repression, you can't hold it inside anymore. Something is shifting here big time. There's something that is becoming clearer to you the more that you reflect on it honestly. And then it's evident what needs to be cut away here. And with that, it opens your road with the 2 of Wands. See, you find the way through and you have a whole new view of what is possible because you acted in accordance with love and wisdom. And this is what will bring you victory over any who would attack you or oppose you. You got it in you. You can do this, and it's time. Godspeed.